Okay, everybody, this is John Klubnik, and today's topic is um, Sage Act on the Go, and we're going to talk about tablets, phones, mobile, smartphones, Act for web, and just features associated with taking Act with you. And statistically, more and more folks are needing to get to their stuff while they travel. And I've kind of defined or coined a term that might apply to you, and that's the term I call an ultra road warrior. So the categories of folks that we might have, we've got an ultra road warrior might be somebody with a smartphone, and it's when I go to the gym and I've got my phone with me, or I'm out to dinner with my family and I've got my phone with me. You know, those times when I'm not even going to carry a tablet, it's just something that I have, and it's something I'd like to get to from just about anywhere. Now, obviously, you would not do all of your work with a mobile phone or with a smartphone. The screen's just too small, so nobody would sit up at their home office or at their office and just use their smartphone. It just wouldn't make any sense. So, with an ultra road warrior, some of the tools that we'll talk about, what you can take with you, what kind of access you have for that type of person. My next category of people I would discuss would be just the road warrior, and the road warrior is your traditional somebody that's working at a Starbucks with a laptop. Maybe I've got a laptop and a smartphone. It's the way I work. You know, if I'm out visiting clients and pull into a Starbucks, it's the way I might work when I'm traveling on vacation or on a business trip. Usually I'm seated someplace. Usually I've got my laptop. I've got a good, strong internet connection, and we talk about the tools that we would use there. The next category I've got for folks is more of my homework or my home office. So now maybe I've got a laptop, maybe I've got a desktop machine. I'm not in the regular office with everybody else, but I've got more permanent set of tools, and I've got bigger screens and bigger keyboard and mouse, and honestly, I'm able to use the full versions of things, but I still have to connect to my home office, and we'll talk a little bit about that. The next category beyond that would be my remote office. That's where maybe I've got a whole team of people that are away from the mothership, maybe a satellite office of salespeople or a branch office, and again, they probably have a physical office to go to. They're all in the same place, but they're not near corporate IT or the rest of their company or their group, and we'll talk about how you can get to Act in those scenarios. And then finally, just our traditional office. In that case, everybody's around a single network, and we don't travel. We don't need to use laptops and things like that. That's the easiest and most straightforward way to set up Act. And honestly, in that case, you just load Act on a server. You can share it out. Everybody can be in the same database at the same time, and it's pretty straightforward to do. The issue becomes is we've got more and more of those other categories. We've got more and more where we have people with, branch offices, home offices, road warriors, ultra road warriors. And one of the I always have told my wife, I enjoy having my own business. I enjoy the flexibility that gives me, but I do need to be kind of tied to the telephone and to email. I can't just disappear for a couple of weeks and go off the grid, because a lot of the business revolves around me having access to it. But I can do a lot of my work from anywhere in the world, and that might be with an iPad, with a smartphone, with a tablet, or with a laptop. And it's kind of how we've patterned our business, and it's a nice trade-off. I do put the phone down when it's family time, but it's nice to be able to travel and be able to work if I need to, and be able to get to everything, including the phone systems, from just about anywhere. In fact, we're going to be, for folks that maybe are considering the hosting that we do, we're setting up a demo with a product called Call On CRM, which allows you to do like a hosted voice over IP system. So basically, you don't have to have anything. If you want to have people that are all over the country, you can give them all they need is a laptop and a headset, and they can get to the phone system, the email system, everything about what you need, all from one place. So that's kind of the dream of where we're going with this. We are talking about 2013 Act, and I'll just kind of show you this here. Some of the new features that they've added, and we've had some different topics on this, but we're dealing a little bit with the mobility feature. But we're also going to talk about some add-ons that might make it easier. They have done a lot with Sage Act 2013, and specifically the product called Act Premium Mobile. And we'll actually show you this a little bit in just a minute. And for mobile options, here's kind of some things that the way that I've categorized it. For add-on products, Companion Link, Handheld Contact, there's a brand new one called iTrack for Act. We'll talk about those really briefly, but those are add-ons that give me more of a surgical approach, meaning I have more configurations, more customizations I can do to do that. They each have some pros and cons, and we'll talk about those. Tools within Act. Some people like to sync Act with Outlook and then get their Outlook out there. We'll talk about what's involved with that, maybe the pros and cons with that. Act Premium Mobile, again, part of the Premium Act product that web enables Act on your smartphones and devices. Sage Act Connect is typically something that you might use as a standard user or a pro user. It's a Sage product that's a hosted product, but is a very limited version of it. Hosted options, and you certainly could host these, or you could use a hosting provider like us. Act for Web, Act Synchronization, and the Act Virtual Desktop, which basically lets you log in and get to all your stuff from any device. And we'll talk about each of those today. All right, so first of all, add-ons, and I've got a general rule that the larger the organization, the more we need to be careful in terms of allowing inputs to the Act database. One of the issues that people have traditionally had with especially syncing information with Act is that if the sync doesn't work or breaks or gets somehow disrupted, you end up with duplicates in your database. And duplicates are not that hard to get rid of as long as you get rid of them promptly. And the problem with that is a lot of people don't know how to get rid of them, or they're not aware that they were there, and they just kind of keep going. And then pretty soon after that, you've got a database that is a mess. So a larger organization, I don't want to take a chance of that, and so I typically am going to do anything I can to avoid a scenario where duplicates could be introduced. Duplicates traditionally might be introduced during a failed synchronization with Act to Outlook sync, with a Companion Link sync, with Sage Act Connect sync. It's not that they're bad products necessarily, but if the sync gets interrupted, you could get duplicates, and it's important to know how to know when you've had a bad sync and how to set up again and how to take them out again. So just be aware that those are possibilities there. If you do have a bad sync and get duplicates, you're always going to see that all the duplicates have the exact same create date. So if you open up Act and look up based on the create date of the record, you'll see they all have the same date. And it's fairly easy just to go in and delete those out. And then you would need to reinitialize the sync. Because I don't put up with that, because I don't want to mess with that, because if you need to hire a consultant to do that for you, it can be a few $100s. I generally prefer a solution that gives me, near impossible, or I really don't have problems with that. And so that limits my choices a little bit to a couple. So let me kind of introduce what each of these are. Companion Link is an add-on product. It's in the $70 per user range. The good thing about Companion Link is it's a one-time cost. It gives me a lot of features that I can customize in terms of what goes to my device and what doesn't. In fact, it gives me more choices in that than anything else. It is user administrated, meaning if I've got 100 people using my Act database, I might have each of them have to know how to do that, and set it up in the right way. So for larger groups, it's administratively a challenge to do something like a companion link. For single users, it's a very good option. I have seen it make duplicates if it gets interrupted or broken. You need to know how to clear that up or get support from them. And I've heard mixed reviews, but mainly just because of folks trying to push it too hard or not being aware that it broke. The safest thing, and also the companion link is a synchronization. So it basically is pushing ACT data out to the device. It populates the native address book on the device, and which is good because caller ID are going to work, and your lookups on your address book are going to work. So that's the feature. There's a little bit more training and hand-holding, but it can be good if you use it that way. Handheld contact is probably our favorite, and it's our favorite because it just doesn't break. The difference between handheld contact and maybe a companion link is it gives me a separate application on the device, and you sync to that application. So, the good thing then is if I want to keep my personal stuff separate, I can, use the native address book for personal stuff and use handheld contact for business stuff, and it works quite well in that frame. iTrack for ACT is a new one that a ACT consultant who's a wonderful program has been working on. It is still very new, and I wouldn't say I've got a lot of experience with it yet. It also synchronizes, but in terms of the ACT-like experience, it's quite popular. The downside, I think, of this one is just going to be the maturity of the product, and it may or not be, have all of the kinks worked out of it yet. But once that one's really all the way done cooking, I think it's going to be a great one. Okay, within ACT, here's some choices we have. We've got ACT Sync with Outlook, ACT Premium Mobile, and Sage ACT Connect. Starting with Sage ACT Connect, this is a subscription service. It's about $79 a year, and it is also end-user configurable. So each person has to set up their own. It can break if you don't do it right. It can break just because of the way the wind is blowing, and you have to be able to take the duplicates out and reset it up. Generally, because of that possibility, we've pushed people to either the ACT Premium Mobile or the handheld contact just because of their increased reliability. But it's, the benefit there, it's very affordable. It's fairly reliable. It's fairly easy. If you've got ACT Pro, if you're a single user, it's a good option. It also doesn't require you to have a web server or anything like the Premium Mobile would require you to have. So for small users, small groups, it's a good option. It's fairly easy to set up. The Premium Mobile is something that's new and something that Sage has been doing a lot of work with, and this basically gives me ACT on an HTML5 client, and it works on the web browsers of a variety of devices. It works great on iPhones, on iPads, on your Android devices, and basically you have access to contacts, notes, histories, activities, sales opportunities, and also the universal search feature of ACT. So you can search everything. It does not have access to groups. It does not have access to companies. The customizations, you can add extra fields to contacts and sales opportunities, but you're not going to see your custom layout on these devices. The other thing on Premium Mobile, it doesn't sync. It's using the database real time, so you do need an internet connection. But the benefit of that is it's real time. As soon as I make a change, so for example, if I open up and make a new contact or create a history or a note, it writes it directly to the database. There's nothing to sync, and because of that, there's nothing to break. And so for larger groups where we just don't want to have any chance of anything breaking, it's a very good option also. Act sync with Outlook. Usually people want to sync with Outlook for two reasons, and I don't always encourage it because of these things. Here's why. A lot of times they want to sync with Outlook because they want to use Outlook for everything. And my point with that is, as long as you're using Outlook for everything, you're only going to get in Act about as far as a Rolodex would get. It makes more sense to use Act for what Act is good for, making your notes, making your histories, and so on. And so I would encourage you, if you want to sync with Outlook, or to really look at why you're trying to do that. And if it's just because you don't know how to use Act, or don't want to use Act, or don't like Act, I'm gonna encourage you to go ahead and bear down and get used to using Act, because as a sales tool, especially if you've got multiple people you're working with, it just does far more than Outlook can. And the part of Act that goes to Outlook is going to keep you at a very basic level. The other reason that people typically want to sync with Outlook is because they want stuff on their phone. And you can certainly do it that way. The companion link is going to have more options for sending to the phone. But again, it's safer if you go one way. We want to push straight to the phone, or push, instead of trying to go two ways, to just go one way. It's usually safer and more reliable. Because of the triple hop, Act to Outlook, Outlook to phone, it's not going to handle well lots of changes and lots of adjustments in there. So again, and not something I want to turn on for large groups of people, just because there's end user things to configure. If it's configured wrong, for example, we get all your personal stuff sucked into the Act database, or just not using it the way, for example, if you put a note into Outlook, it's assigned to the My Record or the user's record inside of Act, and not assigned to the customer's record inside of Act, which is what we'd want it to do. So my choice in the context of tools within Act would be the Act Premium Mobile, and in terms of add-on is usually Handheld Contact. Hosted options, I'll show you these here in a bit. This is going to work when you've got a laptop, or at least some device. Act for Web is going to give me Act over a web browser. Synchronization means we load a copy of Act on a laptop. It needs to be a Windows laptop for either of these to work. And we make a copy of the Act database that synchronizes with the mothership database. And then as you travel, you can open that up. You don't have to have an internet connection except to sync. And you can use the full Act product from your laptop. And that's really best for your road warrior type of a user. Act for Web is going to work with Windows machines. It will work on Macs with certain browsers. In terms of working with a Mac, nothing here is going to integrate with your email or your Outlook or your Office on the Mac. You would need to use VMware Fusion or Boot Camp, and we've actually got a webinar on Act in the Mac tomorrow for folks that have that. The virtual desktop, basically what that gives me is this is the hosted option that we do. This allows me to give you Microsoft Office, Act, your quoting software if you use QuoteWorks, your accounting software if you use Peachtree or QuickBooks, and it works on a variety of devices. So we use a Citrix plugin, and so anything from your phones to your tablets to Macs to PCs to laptops, as long as you have this very simple plugin, it all works. And so for larger groups of people, it's very easy to turn your stuff on. It's very easy to, if you get a new machine or have to or lose a machine or break a machine, it's very easy to redeploy because all there is a small plug-in. So that's what we have with that. I'll come back to this. I'll just show you. This is my final slide, but I'll come back and do some demos here. But Tomorrow we're talking about ACT in the Mac. Thursday we're talking about customizing ACT. You can sign up at acttrainer.com/webinars. And let me kind of end my PowerPoint and just kind of get in and show you a couple of things. So within here, one moment. I opened too many browsers, just a second. So here's our webinars. So kind of talking about what's there. This is the Companion Link website. And just kind of to talk about this, it's great in that it's configurable between different devices. If you're going to do this, if we go first of all to their main page, here's options to sync ACT data. And some really helpful tools. There's some screenshots. Here's the pricing. They've got a 30-day demo. I think you can try it and see how it works. And again, the beauty of this for smaller users or single users, it's a great tool. And the biggest benefit of it is the one-time cost instead of an ongoing subscription. And then the amount of different customizations or different ways you can choose exactly what you want to send over to the device. This is Handheld Contact. This is really the one that we've typically preferred. It does have a PC end of it and also a handheld end to it. They price the service by the device. But if you take a look here, you can see, just really briefly, works on Blackberries, Google or Androids, Mac, or iPhones, iPads, any of these different devices. It gives you a second or a separate application on each device. If you're hosted with us, it's something that we administer and manage and support. Doesn't require a special machine, doesn't require a web server, can run on a PC. The nice thing about this, especially if you've got somebody that travels, it is the most ACT-like experience that I could give you. And that means that I can get to my contacts, my notes, my histories, my activities. It does not do sales opportunities, does not do groups, does not do companies, but it does do contacts, calendar, activities, histories. It records. If you make a phone call, it makes a history. If you want to do a follow-up from the phone call, you can do that. If you make a note or send an email, it makes a history. If you send an email, it goes directly out from here. And again, it all syncs right back, and I've never seen it make duplicates. I've never seen it, not work right. So from an administrative standpoint, in terms of trying to keep a group of people up and going without having a lot of fuss or time, it's probably one of the best. The ACT Premium Mobile is the next one I would choose. So ACT Premium Mobile, this is the Sage website for this. The thing you need to know here, it is part of the Sage Premium offering. So if you bought ACT 2013 Premium, you own the licenses for this. It needs to go on a web server. So if you don't have a web server or don't want to mess with a web server, then having it hosted is a good way to do it. And the other thing is it's real time. So you would basically log in on the device, and anything you do is right away, real time. There it is again. Sage ACT Connect. I think I already have it here. Basically $69 a year, and it gives you, it's a sync. It's generally something we sell for single users. Alrighty. So that's what you'd get on the ACT Connect. Let me show you the virtual desktop, and then I'll also show you the Premium Mobile, or ACT for Web. So ACT for Web, let me just hop in, and you actually, if you'd like, can try this on your devices. The web address is web1.acttrainer.com/webinars. web1.acttrainer.com/APFW. So web1.acttrainer.com/APFW. And in here, the username is just Chris Huffman. There's no password. And you can log in, and then there's your data. Now, if you log into that address from a handheld device, you'll see the ACT Premium Mobile. It's the same address, but actually when you do it from a handheld, it resolves, or it puts a /m at the end of it and gives you the mobile app. So I don't have a way to show you that other than you're welcome to try it on yours if you'd like. So the ACT for Web tool requires a certain Windows-based internet browsers. It'll work with Internet Explorer. It'll work with some versions of Firefox. It does not work with Chrome, does not work with Safari. But as you see it, on a web browser, it gives me the full ACT experience. So I can go look for Melissa, press enter, and there she is. Click her contact, go right to it. So, it's kind of handy for that. There's my custom layout, so it looks like ACT. If you want to go and do notes, histories. The thing you can't do with ACT for Web, you cannot customize the layouts. That has to be done on the desktop version of ACT. You're not able to do imports. There's no right click, so a lot of the commands on the desktop version that the right click uses, you're not able to do. But it's a fairly affordable way to deploy ACT to folks. It's fairly easy. If you need to replace a machine or try it on a different machine, you just have to make sure you've got a compatible browser. As new versions of browsers come out, it generally is, they're not upgrading. So if you've got a 2 or 3 year old version of ACT and you just bought new machines, that 2 or 3 year old version of ACT is not going to work with older browsers. So, I'm sorry, the older version of ACT is not going to work with the newer browsers. And so it becomes more important to stay up to date on your software maintenance if that's what you need. Again, requires a web server, but fairly easy to deploy, fairly easy to give everybody. The main thing is it's a lighter version of ACT, and for some folks that maybe are more power users, the desktop is a better thing. While I'm doing this, let me show you the ACT virtual desktop. So in this case, if you want a demo of this, you can email me and I'll send you that. But you go to a secure website, and I think I already have this in, and I can do my log in. This gives you a desktop to log into. So the cool thing about this is a hosted option for us. So it's, although you could do it, it might be cost prohibitive to do it for you. But the nice thing about this gives you everything in one place. So you see I'm logged in here, and I've got my ACT, I've got my Microsoft Office, I've got my quoting software, I've got my QuickBooks if I want that. If you want to start up ACT, you just open it up. And the really nice thing about this is as you go from device to device, you just open it up on those other devices, and there it is. So if you've got a large team that's geographically dispersed, meaning I've got people in different places, it's a really great way to have everybody in. It's real time. There's no synchronizing. So as soon as one person enters something in, everybody else can see it right away. And again, it's not just your ACT. Let's say you want to go in and you want to fire off, hey, let's start up Excel in the cloud. And I can take everything that's loaded here, this whole environment here, and I can go and work from home. I can work from, a tablet if you choose to. I've logged in on my iPhone with this on an airplane just because I had to send a quote to somebody. I logged into our system and sent off my quote. Here's the quoting software that we work with all the time. So if you want to integrate, if you do a lot of quoting, This is really cool. We'll probably do a webinar just on quoting, but say you're talking to Lance and you want to do a quote for Lance, you just go in here, you suck the contact right in from ACT in. You can go to your products table, pick all of these products, and then take a look. When I'm ready to do this, I hit print. I can preview it. There's my cover page, but then here's my quote. And you can email that out, and goes right into, is saved right back into ACT, and also can be brought into QuickBooks or P-Street. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So anyway, that's the virtual desktop, and really the strength of that is it's not just ACT we're putting in the cloud. It can be any Windows application that we put into the cloud. All right, so that should sum us up today on tablets and handhelds. Let me kind of stop the recording, but also